All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Mark of Balance. My name is Mark, and today I'm going to be defending Season 1 of the Clone Wars, a topic I am very passionate about because I feel like there's been this tendency to just paint the first couple seasons of Clone Wars as very childish, very immature, not as violent as the later seasons of Clone Wars, and I think that's just blatantly untrue, and I think it's a blanket statement that people just throw out there because it's convenient, but as a Clone Wars connoisseur, I have to call this out. The reason I care about this so much is because I love the show and I want as many people that are Star Wars fans to experience it. And I feel like if the first thing you say to someone that hasn't seen Clone Wars is, oh, it's really good in the last couple seasons, but the first couple seasons you just kind of got to get through. First of all, that's the worst thing to hear when someone recommends a new show to you. But I think this attitude towards the first couple seasons of Clone Wars, specifically the first season of Clone Wars, does a lot of damage and actually discourages people from even trying the show. I know there are a lot of filler-free episode guides out there that take out a bunch of episodes of Clone Wars and really just get you the main arcs of the show. And those are great, and there's nothing wrong with those. I even made one, and I have it still. I have the XL. If you're interested in it, comment below or DM me on Instagram. I'm happy to send it to you. But I feel like these lists, for the most part, go over the top with the amount of episodes they take out, and it actually detracts from the Clone Wars as a show because that's the beauty of the Clone Wars. It's a episodic show that is able to give you these little vignettes into the war and all these different aspects of a galaxy in turmoil. So when I made my list, I was very intentional with the episodes that I cut out because I wanted to preserve as much of the show as possible. Because I feel like, yeah, you can watch like 10 arcs throughout the whole show and you get introduced to the important characters and you see their arcs played out, but you're not really watching the show at that point, if you get what I mean. It's kind of taking away the magic. And the reason I bring up these episode guides is because the first season of Clone Wars is the one on the chopping block for a lot of these episode cuts. And that's because most of these episodes are standalone. They're one-off episodes that explore little stories, and they aren't part of these larger, complex arcs that we see in later seasons of the Clone Wars. But I'm here to defend those one-off episodes from Season 1 and how they explore all these different aspects of war and these themes that are just as mature as the themes that we see in later seasons of Clone Wars. Something that this narrative would lead you not to believe, that, oh, the first season is a bunch of kiddie adventures and the later seasons are where you get into the nitty-gritty and the really dark stuff. But there's a lot of really dark stuff in the first season that's handled well. I actually think the abundance of standalone episodes that we get in Season 1 is its biggest strength. It's able to explore the most diverse range of topics compared to later seasons of the Clone Wars. Now, what I'm not here to do is claim that Season 1 of the Clone Wars is this masterclass of storytelling and that the highs of Season 1 reach anywhere near the highs of the later seasons. Nor am I here to claim that Season 1 is not without its faults, because there are many faults with the first season of Clone Wars. The animation is still pretty rough around the edges in some points. This was brand new technology for the time, and they were still learning how to create a weekly episodic Star Wars show with 3D animation. It was really groundbreaking for its time. And as I mentioned, the storylines are a lot simpler. The dialogue is more straightforward. There's more exposition. There's more of an emphasis on humor. But simple doesn't mean bad. Simple can be beautiful. Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of the best shows of all time, has very simple, straightforward episodes early on. But they all have a purpose and they all feed into the characters' journeys. And when they pay off in later seasons, you come to appreciate those earlier episodes even more. Same is true here with Season 1 of Clone Wars. Saying that last thought out loud really does make me understand why people do have this notion around Season 1 of the Clone Wars being childish or immature. If you've only seen the show once and you haven't gone back to rewatch it, that would probably be the thing that sticks out to you the most. But I just want to add that veteran perspective here of someone who's seen the first season so many times and who can look at it subjectively with my nostalgia, but also look at it objectively and understand, like, yeah, that's not the strongest episode. Or, yeah, that dialogue is super clunky, rewatching it now as an adult. But then I also remember all the other episodes from season 1 that I'm like, no, this absolutely holds up. People should be seeing this. People shouldn't skip this episode because it's rated as filler or not important to Ahsoka's story or whatever. So I guess you could call this a retrospective episode. I think that's the proper YouTube term. Probably very professional of me to come to this 6 minutes into this episode. But regardless, I'm passionate about this and I really want to get into it. But before I talk about some specific examples of the dark themes or the very violent things that happened in season 1, I do want to bring the objective lens into this because I know you guys are probably like, Mark, you got your nostalgic goggles on, you love this show, and you have these really fond memories of watching it on Cartoon Network week to week back in 2008 when it was first airing, and that's why you're so connected to season 1. But I'm a man of science, so I brought in some hard statistics to back up my claim that season 1 is not as much of a slog as people claim it is. So I went to IMDb. If you're not familiar with it, it's a website where users could add their own ratings to TV shows, movies, individual episodes of TV shows, and it's kind of the gold standard that people go to for ratings. It's on a scale of 1 to 10. And I love it. I feel like I'm such a IMDb nerd. I could tell you all the ratings for all these different things. But I went to the website and I did some digging into the user ratings for each episode of the Clone Wars. So I could compare the low-rated episodes to the amount of episodes in a season to have a ratio of bad episodes to good episodes in any given season and compare those percentages. I hope I'm not losing anyone already, but the first 5 seasons have 22 episodes each. The 6th season has 13 episodes, and the last season, season 7, has 12 episodes. So my criteria for bad episode is going to be any episode rated 7.0 or below. Some people might say 7 out of 10 is not a bad episode, but because Clone Wars on the whole has a lot of higher rated episodes, most episodes sit at a 7.5 or above. So I'm just setting the threshold at 7.0. I feel like when you get into the 6s on IMDb, that's really when you could start saying, yeah, that's not good, or that was a bad episode. This is definitely not an exact science. You could poke a lot of holes in this logic, but for the sake of arguments, to bring an objective lens in, this is what I went with. I think you'll be very surprised with the results, especially if you were in the camp of people that thinks the first season is not very good compared to later seasons. So when I sum up all of the episodes rated 7.0 or below in each season, here's what I get. For season 1, out of 22 episodes, 5 episodes are rated bad. That's 22% of the season. Season 2, only 2 episodes are considered bad. That's 9%. Season 3, 5 episodes are considered bad. 22% as well, same as season 1. Season 4, probably considered the strongest season of the show, has 4 episodes at a 7.0 or below, putting it at 18%. Season 5 has 3 episodes at 14%. That's the D-Squad arc. You know it. It's terrible. I do not like it. Gregor's pretty cool in it. Season 6, 3 episodes. And because this season was shorter, those 3 episodes translate to 23% of the season being considered bad. And Season 7, the season that a lot of people consider to be the pinnacle of Clone Wars, has 4 episodes rated at a 7.0 and below. And since there was only 12 episodes in that season, that translates to 33% of the season being considered bad. When you roll all this up and compare the percentages on a consistency basis, Season 1 is tied with Seasons 3 and 6 at around 22% and outperforms Season 7, which had 33% bad episodes. The only seasons to beat it out are 2, 4, and 5. That makes sense. Those are probably the best seasons of Clone Wars. But more importantly, I think this exercise just puts into perspective that there's just as many skippable episodes in the later seasons of Clone Wars that people say are infallible when compared to Season 1. I thought that was pretty cool to see. Now, if we're talking highs and lows, of course, later seasons have episodes in the 9.0 range. Siege of Mandalore has 2 episodes that are 9.9s out of 10. They even rank among the highest rated episodes of all of television history. So I'm not saying Season 1 touches those peaks, but on a consistency basis, I think Season 1 has plenty of episodes that are worth watching. All right, now let's dispel this notion that the first season of Clone Wars has much less violence, it's much more kid friendly, it doesn't explore as many dark themes as the later seasons. I think this is flat out wrong, and there are so many examples of things shown in season 1 that go toe to toe with anything we've seen in later seasons. Season 1 has the strength of being able to explore so many different themes and aspects of war because there are so many standalone episodes. We have the idea of colonialism, we have the idea of slavery, biological weapons, political terrorism, weapons of mass destruction, the tug of war of pacifism versus self defense, and where the line is drawn. I think all these themes are super poignant and they were super digestible even for me as a 10-year-old. Like, I understood it, obviously not to the level that I understand it now, but they were delivered in such a way that they were effective for a child to understand, but as an adult I can understand them even more. And I think that's one of the important pillars of great children's television, is that it does grow up with you and that it's entertaining to you for different reasons at different stages of your life. So I'm going to go through all of the episodes of season 1 now and condense, where there are arcs into one thought. And as I go through these, I'll talk about the themes, the maturity of those themes, and then also any big pieces of violence that are shown that I think go toe-to-toe with anything we see in later seasons of Clone Wars, just to put these two topics into one. The series premiere, we follow Yoda and a group of clones on a peaceful mission that gets interrupted by Asajj Ventress and the Separatists. They have to hold out against overwhelming odds as waves and waves of droids are pinning them down, and they have to work together to get out of there. And we explore this great theme of individualism, where Yoda sees these clones as living beings and not just numbers or pieces on a chessboard. And that's a theme that is explored for the rest of the series and is an important pillar of the show, that these clones are living beings. They're not just tools for the meat grinder. And even in Bad Batch, we explore that further, that clones are being discarded like they're tools, but they're people, they're living beings. And this is a great introduction to the show and a theme that is present throughout it. Next up, we have the Malevolence arc, which is a quintessential, iconic Clone Wars storyline. I think everyone needs to watch this arc, even if there are some weak aspects to it. I think it is a great introduction to the trio of characters we follow with Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan. And it also shows the large-scale battles that Filoni and team were able to create very early on in production with the Clone Wars, which is really impressive for a TV show. And yeah, we're dealing with weapons of mass destruction here. We have these really intense moments where the ion cannon is shot and all of the Republic ships get disarmed and then they're just blown away. And the most violent thing that happens during this arc is the escape pods with Plo Koon and his group of clones. And there's that droid ship that goes around literally crushing escape pods and forcing all of the clone victims out into the vacuum of space. This is one of the darkest things that Clone Wars does in the entire series. It is so dark. The droids do not have to do this. They could just shoot the escape pods, but no, they go around crushing them so that the vacuum of space can swallow these clones whole. It's crazy, and it's in the first season. Next up, we have Rookies, which is honestly one of the best episodes of Clone Wars, hands down, one of my absolute favorites. And this one is all about service and sacrifice. We have the underdog story of all these rookie clones in their first battle against a droid army that is there to take over the station. Luckily, Cody and Rex are there on a routine maintenance check, and they have to save the day. 5 clones against like a large battalion of droids. And the big driving force behind it is the fact that if they fail, the droids will be able to attack Kamino, the clone homeworld, by surprise, which would effectively stop all production of clones, and the Republic would lose the war on the spot. So there's a lot of stakes, and we also, again, this idea of individualism among the clones. We get introduced to Fives, Heavy, and Echo. Fives and Echo being staples of the Clone Wars series, and Heavy being a fan favorite character who sacrifices himself in the end. And it absolutely hits. We also see clones get eaten by big sandworms and cut down by commando droids. Very violent stuff. And I also think they use the word hell in this episode, which is the only time in the series they use that word. So even in a language perspective, this early first season of Clone Wars is saying curse words that later seasons don't even say. I know hell's not a curse word, but just work with me here. The next 3 episodes are admittedly not good. We have the anti-R2 arc with that separatist spy astromech droid. The animation in this arc is not great, and overall I usually skip this one. Now that I've seen the show a couple times, I'm just like, yeah, I don't need to watch that again. Ahsoka's also kind of annoying in this one. And the 3rd episode is a Jar Jar episode, so, you know. Next up after that, though, we have Cloak of Darkness, which is such a sick episode. It's where they're transferring Newt Gunray, and it's Luminara and Ahsoka guarding him, and Asajj Ventress sneaks on board, and then there's that Senate guard that betrays everyone. Really cool episode, a lot of great action, and then in the end, when Asajj Ventress sticks the lightsaber through the guy and kills him in the cockpit, super dark, super violent. I also think this is a really strong episode for early Ahsoka, where people were probably on the fence about her and thought she was really annoying. I think she learns a great lesson in here, but I also think Luminara learns a lesson from her, and that's what makes the relationship between them really interesting. Next up, we have The Lair of Grievous, a sick episode with some Grievous backstory that we don't get a lot of, so you have to appreciate it while it's here. We have this House of Horrors with Kit Fisto and his old Padawan Nadar working through this labyrinth of Grievous's lair. There's all these terrible booby traps. One clone gets incinerated. One clone gets cut in half by a closing door. Nadar gets shot by Grievous. A clone gets beaten by Gore, the big pet that Grievous has. He slams him into the ground. Nadar and Kit Fisto cut Gore's hands off. They cut his tail off. They stab him in the neck. It's like, this was just a gore fest without showing any actual gore, but still super violent episode and a really cool look into a character that we don't ever really get a lot of backstory for in Grievous, but we peel back the curtain a bit more. Next 2 episodes I'm very fond of because they introduce the greatest pirate in all of Star Wars, Hondo Ohnaka. We see Anakin, Count Dooku working together while they're all imprisoned by Hondo. Anakin and Obi-Wan get drunk. They get drugged by the pirates. There's strippers on the table. There's a lot of adult themes going on in these 2 episodes. The second part of these 2 episodes is a Jar Jar episode for the most part, so I get why this got a 6.9 rating and is considered a bad episode, but overall I kind of do like these 2 episodes, especially because we do see Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Count Dooku needing to work together. That was really cool. And just Hondo's one-liners are just, oh, he's such an icon. I love him. Next up, we have the Jedi Crash arc where Ayla, Ahsoka, and Anakin, Rex and Bly crash on the Lurman homeworld, and the Lurmans are extreme pacifists. They don't want to help the Republic at all because if they help them, then they would be considered to be a part of the war, but they can't turn away someone who's injured, so they help Anakin, and as a result, that puts him in danger because the Separatists show up and they start testing a new weapon. And the Separatists are like, you are now under the protection of the Separatist Alliance, essentially colonizing them and saying, yeah, we'll set up bases on this place. This is our planet now. And then they're going to test a new super weapon on the Lurman village to see what it will do to living beings. So super dark. I really love this arc. I thought the animation in this one was really cool, and I think the final confrontation with the Lurmans deciding to help out was really a powerful statement of self-defense versus pacifism. How far can you take pacifism to the point where you're just getting walked over? And does that compromise your belief system? I thought that was really cool. Again, a concept that I understood as a kid, but I also appreciate more as an adult. Next up, we have more colonialism with Trespass and Senator Chuchi, Anakin, and Obi-Wan having to broker a peace treaty between Senator Chuchi's people and the natives of the planet or moon that their planet neighbors. We see elements of racism here where Chuchi's people look down on these natives as lower beings, and that because they're lower beings, they automatically own the world that they inhabit. And the standoff between the Republic, the natives, the violence that ensues is all really thought provoking. And I think a super underrated episode in the grand scheme of things. But I personally think this is one of the more mature episodes from the early seasons of Clone Wars. Next up, we have some betrayal within the clone army with the hidden enemy. We get a great rematch of Asajj Ventress versus Anakin and Obi-Wan, but more importantly, we explore how Rex and Cody deal with betrayal and the idea that one of their brothers could betray them, and the investigation, and them questioning all the different clones in a certain battalion to figure out who's the traitor, and then the twist that it's the commanding officer, the guy that seemed the most straight edge. And Slick is such a great character for an early season because he brings up this idea that is carried throughout the show of these clones thinking, is this worth it? Are my brothers dying for the right reason? Of course, he didn't go about it in the best way, but it is an idea that is planted early on in the show and comes to fruition in the Umbara arc, which is one of the strongest arcs of the entire series. Also, the sound of Captain Rex's leg breaking when Cut has him on the ground and pulls his leg is still like burned into my mind as a child. It's so gross sounding, and again, just another example of violence being very much present in season 1. Next up, we have the Blue Shadow Virus arc, which honestly, I kind of enjoy this arc, but it is rated below 7.0 for both episodes, so it's obviously not a big hit with everyone else, but I think the idea of biological weapons in Star Wars is really cool to explore. I think it makes a lot of sense. The way Dr. Nuvo Vindi talks is hilarious. The Blue Shadow Virus, that's like stuck in my head at all times. But again, there are some pretty cool mature themes in here about the consequences of releasing a biological weapon. And I think the sacrifice that Ahsoka and some of the clones make to close the door and not release it out into the world is pretty powerful. But not going to spend too much time on this arc because, again, it is considered one of the bad groups of episodes from Season 1. Next up, though, we have the Ryloth arc, which a lot of people consider to be the highlight of Season 1. We have a complex 3-episode arc with 3 different fronts of the battlefield. We see the space battle, we see the door-by-door street-level fighting, and then we have the liberation of the capital with Mace Windu. I think this arc, again, touches on a lot of important themes. The cost of leadership with Ahsoka getting a lot of her squadron killed because she disobeyed orders or was overconfident with her leadership position. Then we have the best episode of the arc with Innocence of Ryloth, with Waxer and Boyle finding the orphaned Twi'lek girl, and they have to protect her and get her back to her parents, who are currently on course to be enslaved by the Separatists. It very much feels like a representation of the wars in the Middle East, of going door to door and finding refugees and getting them reunited with their families. It's very powerful. Again, as a kid, I appreciated it for the action and the connection between Waxer Boyle and the little girl. But as an adult, you kind of see the broader picture. So that was, a really strong episode and a really strong piece of the arc. And then we have the liberation of the capital city with Mace Windu. It's a big battle episode. It's really cool, but again, it touches on freedom fighters and grassroots military movements with Cham Syndulla and him rallying his freedom fighters because the Republic won't send more troops, so they have to liberate themselves. Like, again, themes of things that we've seen in the real world. And I forgot to mention, when they release those bug things in Innocence of Ryloth, those things start like just eating clone troopers. Again, super violent. Very much need to mention that. And then finally, the finale, Hostage Crisis, the introduction of Cad Bane, the most badass bounty hunter in the galaxy. This episode is just political terrorism. It opens with Cad Bane brutally snapping the neck of one of the Senate guards, and Aurra Sing is just picking off the rest of them with a sniper. Cad Bane then executes one of the senators in cold blood in front of all the other senators. He plants bombs in the Senate building. I mean, it's some dark stuff. I specifically remember when he snapped the guard's neck. I was like, as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh. That was like something that was burned into my memory. So this episode really didn't hold a lot back. And of course, it gave us Cad Bane, which, again, Season 1 of Clone Wars introduced a lot of iconic characters that are still affecting Star Wars to this day. Hondo has a freaking ride at Galaxy's Edge, and Cad Bane has now appeared in so many different shows, for better or for worse. This season just needs its cred where cred is due. And just like that, we've reached the end of season 1. I hope me going through this season episode by episode has given you a new appreciation for what this season accomplishes and inspires you to go back and rewatch some of these episodes. And if you had never seen some of these episodes because the guides told you to skip them, I hope you go back and say, oh, I want to see those episodes for the first time and see what Mark was talking about. And hopefully you see the value that I see in them. In conclusion, I think season 1 of the Clone Wars is super underrated. I think it gets a bad rap. I think the notion that this is a season of Clone Wars that you just need to get through, that there's a lot of episodes that you can skip, that it doesn't explore as many dark, mature themes as later seasons, that the violence is toned down compared to later seasons. All of these things are untrue and an unfair blanket statement on the first season. While I am very aware of its shortcomings, and I'm not saying that season 1 reaches the peaks that later seasons do of Clone Wars, I think there's a lot of value in these episodes. I don't think they should be discouraged to new viewers. I think they should experience them. I hope through this episode I find more Clone Wars Season 1 defenders. I know they're out there. I hope I'm giving a voice to you all. And please let me know in the comments if that's you. If you go and watch Season 1 because of me, or you go back to rewatch Season 1 because of this episode, please let me know as well in the comments. That would be awesome. But thank you so much for listening. It means so much to me. Like, subscribe, follow me on social media. That'll all be in the description. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and may the Force be with you. Peace.